We are planning to go forward with exactly the e-learning plan right now, but we have no knowledge that the schools will be reopened. We are only hearing that which all of you are hearing every single day in the news briefings. Sometimes he's wearing a glove, sometimes he's not, sometimes he's wearing one. Nonetheless, we don't know what we're going to be doing with schools. As soon as we know, we will let you guys know for sure. We do know that FEA has now written a letter to the governor. President Ingram has written a letter that we're going to send out to all of our members on Friday, so you can look for that letter, which is basically asking the governor to keep our schools closed for the safety of our schools and our students and our communities, and for our, all of the teachers and ESPs that work in the schools. So FEA is asking the governor to keep schools closed. We maintain that they should be closed, but we will keep you posted. If you guys do have questions for Facebook Live, please make sure that you're posting them, because our producer of the show, Paula Jo, will be helping us out with that.
Stephanie. All right. We have gotten a few questions that I want to answer. I don't necessarily have a definitive answer, but do want to let you all know we are talking with the district about getting you a little bit more guidance on how to deal with Tier 2 and Tier 3 students so that you have a better RTI plan. We know that the district is certainly talking about this. We know schools are leaning on their resource and coaches to help with this. And so we'll get you more information as soon as we have it. But in the interim, I would say with the kids in your classroom, as you always would, you want to simply differentiate instruction, meet them where they are, and do those kind of things you would do if you were sitting in the classroom.
And we have our first question. Was the MOU finalized and sent to principals?
The concepts in the MOU, Paula just said, someone asked about, is the MOU finalized? I just got off the phone with Marie Whalen, and it should be finalized by tomorrow. But most of the concepts have been shared with principals, so we shouldn't still be having as much of an issue. We have added language since last week, which does say that principals should not be requesting any kind of daily logs. The only kind of logs you might need to keep, and again, in a minimal fashion, are logs related to ELL or ESE services. Obviously, federal money is involved there, and we're not 100% sure what we may or may not have to prove, and so we do want to make sure that if schools are called upon, they have enough information. But I know Marie was talking with Tracy Brown and Debbie Cook and others today to make sure if there was anything we needed on ESE or ELL.
We spent a lot of time last week at a rep council talking about the forms and that what you're being asked to do for attendance and other record keeping. We feel like that was a very successful rep council, even though it was done in the same exact virtual format. So we appreciate all of you being patient with that. Once again, the information went forth about making sure that we're logging those parents and those families that we're not having any kind of contact with during a given school week. And we feel like that's kind of settling down. If you feel like you're still having an issue at your specific school site, that's an opportunity for you to call us here at our Union building, so that way we can help you out. So please continue to do that.
Is there a particular log for ESE?
No, to our knowledge, again, Paula just said, someone asked, was there a particular log for ESE? There is nothing in particular that we know of now. You would obviously want to keep records as you do in the normal course of business, and those are going to be pretty specific to a child's IEP or whatever specific services they have. But again, whatever you would do in the normal course of business, if you could provide that information from the virtual world, that's going to be, where you will feel most comfortable no matter what is asked of you. But again, those lengthy logs, any kind of minute-by-minute accounting of the day, anything of that nature, that should have ceased this week. They did have a principals meeting, principals phone call this time last week, and so you should all see that getting better. If it isn't, do call your rep.
Okay, next question is there any discussion about raises for next year?
Is there any discussion about raises next year?
No, not yet. I think the most important thing to remember is that raises are based on, obviously, the budget for the given year. It is fairly certain that there will be a special session and the budget scenario will probably change. And so what I think people's hands are full with the move to e-learning and all that's going on right now. And our new superintendent has definitely had a lot to contend with. So no, we have not entered into contract negotiations yet and probably will not do so until we have a better feel for the budget in the state of Florida, which was okay, but could very potentially go down given the basis for, just for anyone who isn't aware of this, the basis for any budget in our state is going to be sales tax as well as property tax, given we don't have a state income tax. And so something like what we have going on right now where things are essentially closed, sales tax is going to take a huge hit.
So whereas the Florida legislature had left Tallahassee with a budget of $40 for a base student allocation, that most certainly is going to change as soon as they can bring them back for a special session. So they'll be carving up the budget, not only education budget, but the budget across the state, because as Stephanie said, or contestant number one on the other side of the thing here, that the budget is completely dependent upon sales tax, so we have no idea what it's going to look like this year or next. So we will always have your interests at heart when we get to the table, but we don't have an idea of what that's going to look like yet. Paul, another question?
Okay, yep, switching gears a little bit. Can an admin require you to come to school for a meeting?
Can administration require you to come to school for a meeting? No. What meeting are you being asked to come in for that can't be done exactly in this fashion? Do we have a clarity on that? I was trying to read the questions, but jinkies, my glasses are not that strong.
I do not have any clarification. If they put it down, I'll,
Yeah, the meetings that you're still required to have would be your faculty meeting, which we're assuming are happening on Tuesdays. And then you would have one PLC per month on your early release days. So those are your required meetings for a given week or a month, if you look at it that way. Of course, your principal could ask you then to say, I'm going to have one faculty meeting this week, and next week, instead of a faculty meeting, you'll have a PLC, and maybe the week after that, there's an ILT or something of that sort. But that would be your one Tuesday meeting, and then your Monday meeting of one Monday per month. So outside of that...
Unless you have a SIP waiver, and then you might potentially be doing 2 Mondays per month.
That's true.
But either way, those should be likely happening by teleconference or Zoom or some other means. I do want to note there is, there may be some meetings if your principal wanted to have a conversation with you that was on a specific situation or of a more personal nature. Some of those conversations are obviously better held face to face, but you should simply, if you're ever wondering, you can always ask a principal what the meeting is about, and
it
then...
was the media specialist who asked to come in. It says it was our media specialist who was asked to come in to catch up on things.
So in terms of coming in, Paul, I don't know how well you all can hear Paula, but we got that this is about a media specialist simply being asked to come in and catch up on things. If the media specialist has things to catch up on in the actual media center and they wish to go in, I'm certainly not going to say you can't. For instance, we do a number of things here in our office because our office is large enough to maintain a safe social distance, and frankly, it's quieter than my house full of children and a spouse working from home. But you can't be forced to do it. At this point, the superintendent has made clear that remote work, where it is available, it should be available. Again, if you have no underlying conditions and there's not going to be anyone around you and you want to go in, certainly that's something you could do if you want.
Okay, so that dovetails with the question about what's your stance on weekly 1 hour long planning meetings.
In terms of, I think we have covered pretty clearly where we stand on meetings. One thing I would say is think of the current world you're living in as really, for purposes of our contract, it's really not different. Principals can absolutely have Zoom faculty meetings on Tuesdays because the contract provides that. They cannot, we have had some calls where principals are wanting to have a faculty meeting on a Wednesday or a Thursday or at 7 a.m. No, they can't do that. Again, I would say the only place I would say there is an alternative to that is if your faculty has somehow voted that you do faculty at a different time, or that's what's always worked for your school. Continuing the same practice, I would say, is probably okay, but you are not to have extra meetings that aren't already within, that are outside your contractual day. So just think of it in that regard. Again, if something's helpful, we do not begrudge any principal offering things that are helpful and additional, but they cannot make those things mandatory if they are not within the contractual time frame.
I think that's the main point there, is that we're hoping that these collaborative meetings are helpful for what you're trying to accomplish with your students. So if they are not helpful, then that's a conversation that you might want to have with the administration. Why are we having these meetings that are not helping? If you're having those PLCs and collaborative meetings that are helping you meet the needs of the kids, then obviously by all means have those meetings. But once again, as Stephanie said, the required meetings are happening on Tuesdays, and that would be your faculty meeting, your required PLC, and the other committees that you could potentially be asked to serve on.
Okay, evaluation. Are they just on hold for the year, or do we complete our final evaluation?
You will not be completing a final evaluation this year. The information, any information that has been collected up to this point will remain within your Lawson portfolio. So if you had a great observation, it's going to be in there. If you've commented on things, it will remain in there. But in terms of principals completing a final evaluation, that is in our MOU. That will not happen, but that's not just about what we have talked about here. It's actually supported by what the governor and the state of Florida have said on a whole, which is they are waiving final evaluations for the state as a necessity. We are going to have, there are a couple things specifically in our MOU that will help some of our members. If you were in needs improvement this year, it'll help you be considered effective for next year. But if you are effective or highly effective, basically we will use your 18-19 score for anything we need it for. And then we have other means if you have no score or you had a lower score to potentially help that. But both teacher and ESP evaluations are suspended.
Okay, so should school counselors be required to go in to cover the front office at schools?
Should the school counselors be required to go in? I'm just repeating it for the studio audience.
Yeah.
Should school counselors be required to go in to cover the main office?
So I think some of that depends on what is being asked. As a general rule, covering, if you're being asked to do, in essence, a secretarial duty as an instructional staff person, that isn't what should generally be happening. However, people without a dedicated roster are going to be asked to perform functions that support the site. Sometimes school counselors, for instance, are one of our bilingual staff members at a site. And if the principal is finding front office needs that they can't address because of a language barrier, that could be a good reason to have somebody come in. If families are struggling with other things, be it mental health issues, be it, I know I have heard a lot of high schools having challenges because we've canceled the upcoming ACTs and SATs. And so I think you get a lot of parents who are panicked and a lot of students who potentially are panicked. And so if you're being asked to come in to cover the kind of things you do in your daily life, like explain how we're going to handle those things, I don't think that's a problem. Again, if you are over 65 or you have any kind of immune compromised issue, please know we have had success working with the district to keep people with those situations out of sites as much as possible. So if you have an issue, the school district knows if you are a particular age. The school district does not necessarily know everyone's health status. And so you can have that conversation with your principal yourself, or you can certainly call your rep here. And we have had good luck. Every principal that we have dealt with has worked with us where somebody's own health status has come into play. And so that would be a reason I think you can say no, but you shouldn't be asked to be doing, sitting around making copies, but you could be asked for a number of other things in a broad sense.
I got a question here about info about summer school, and as of today, the district is planning for summer school, but they don't know exactly what format that will be, obviously. So they're waiting from direction with everything else from the DOE and from the state. So that which is required for them to have for summer school could potentially be done in the same e-learning format, or it could be face-to-face. We don't know that yet. So that information is forthcoming.
So there's a couple of questions about closing schools, returning to school. One is, we know that FEA sent the letter, but when will the governor react? And the other one is, does CTA have any input on that decision?
I don't think we can tell when the governor will react. I do know, look, every school superintendent in this state, and frankly across the country, is grappling with the same issue. So a number of big states have already closed schools for the remainder of the year. And so I think Florida compares with a New York, for instance, in terms of size and scope. And so that definitely is the kind of thing, we're keeping an eye on. As people have noted, we've told you FEA's position on not going back. We certainly have had conversations with the district, but I'm not even sure, the governor's going to do what the governor's going to do, and we don't know in what time frame he'll do that. We're certainly having conversations with the district. I think they're trying to be prepared either way, but I do think the reality is it's hard to, you guys all know this is a big ship here. It's hard to turn on a dime and go to e-learning, and it would be similarly difficult to turn on a dime and go back the other way. And unless things are very clear in terms of what's happening public health-wise in Florida, I think you run the risk that students won't come to school, that we'll have a lot of teachers that have to be out because of health conditions. But I also think you have a lot of parents who, it's a challenge when everyone's trying to work from home and do school from home. So I think there's lots of debate on both sides. Governor's going to lead the way, and then we'll deal with what we have to here in the district. But my position would be, I think I would personally keep schools closed for the remainder of the year. I say that both as a parent and a school advocate, but I can't say that the governor would listen to what I have to say on this.
Right. Our superintendent's gone on record to say that he does not believe that we'll be coming back, but once again, he doesn't get to make that final say. So the district, I know, is frustrated in the idea that they have to create several different types of plans. One in which that we're continue with this, one where we come back and then for different lengths of time, whether it's for the month of May, or even the governor's gone on record to say potentially the last 2 weeks. We're firmly against that, and we're going to continue with that message. But until we hear anything in finality, we don't know, just like everyone else. I would expect, if tomorrow is the 15th or something, I would imagine within the next week or so we'll hear something about May, but it's just a guess.
I would keep in mind, just for the record, that our cases still are going up by over 1,000 new cases a day. And that is in a state which still has, in my opinion, fairly limited testing. With cases going up at that rate, until that, again, from a public health perspective, until that levels off, it's not a particularly safe call on the governor's part. I see Rob smiling in the camera.
Because you're applying
Probably
logic.
because I'm applying logic to the problem, but I don't see it, but
But you
who
can see
knows?
me on the other side of the screen.
I can see you in the camera, so.
Sorry.
Lots of questions about grading. So are we required to grade assignments a specific way? Area soups have told administrators that we should be using rubrics with elementary. What advice is union given the district with regard to grading student work and dealing with students who are not submitting work? We're being told no student will fail. Why I've stressed to everyone with the accountability laws.
So, okay, let me answer this on a couple different levels. The contract gives you control over the grading of students, and we maintain that that is exactly how things stay. With that said, and I personally am not a proponent of, I think kids do, especially as they get older, need to learn responsibility and have consequences for not doing things. I'm a firm believer in that as a parent, but I know we don't want to leave anybody behind, basically, in this sense, because of challenges with where we're sitting in this kind of new and novel time. And so while I get those of you who want to be pretty hardcore on deadlines and grades, I also want to say, I think giving everyone a little bit of grace and flexibility during this time is important. Now, if you have a kid who's not shown up, not done anything, I do think you need to talk to your admin about what's going to be done in that scenario in terms of credit recovery or other aspects. But I absolutely, while I think you should be flexible, especially if kids are expressing any kind of concerns, mental, economics. I mean, look, here's the reality, and I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. People are struggling. People are struggling mentally. They've been cooped up in the house. They're not, not everyone does well with that. But lots of people's families have parents out of work. They have other struggles. So there's a lot going on in a lot of households, and I do think we should be good and decent human beings in terms of being flexible about all those things for kids. With that said, ultimately, you cannot be told by an area director how to grade kids. That is in your purview, that is your right as an educator, and we will stand by you in that regard. If you are having if you can give us some idea on what specific directives are happening, please contact your rep about that, because I'm curious if something's being misinterpreted or if we need to get to a particular area superintendent or to the superintendent if something isn't clear to people.
I would say as a classroom teacher, though, that we do have the freedom to grade and do things the way that we see them fit for our students in the classroom. And under the e-learning program, that maintains itself. So what I would think of as a guy that, say I'm teaching English to 8th graders or 12th graders and things that I've done, I would think about what are the activities that I want those students to complete in this 9 weeks, and then I would backwards plan from there and make those part of my assignments. And then working the kids and funneling them towards what I think is that final assignment. Now, talking with teaching and learning even this afternoon or this morning, they're trying to come up with a plan for grades. They know that you have control over the grades, and they expect that you will be giving a grade for the 9 weeks. The issue that they're having are with the students that maybe didn't do that well or maybe failed in the 9 weeks, and how can we make sure that we give them an opportunity to make up some of that work that they didn't get done, much the way we would have done if this was a normal 9 weeks where they could bring up their grade average. So There's nothing final on that yet, but you still have control over the assignments that you're giving, the way that you grade them. I'm not really sure how if forcing a rubric on teachers would help any of these things. If a rubric works for you and your students, use them. I mean, I would use them in my example I gave earlier. That would be on that last assignment, but the ones that I was funneling and working my way there, I wouldn't have rubrics for each of those different activities, but the last one I would. So once we figure out a way that we could offer kids the opportunity to not leave them in a lurch or keep them from making them fail for the year, and I think that the district is working on that, so they're not quite there yet. Expect something on that by, I would say, either late this week or early next week on that plan. I know it's in the works.
The other piece I would make sure is if there is some request for a rubric and it's really coming from parents who are trying to support their kids and do not necessarily understand what's expected on a given day or from a given project. I mean, we all know a kid who's been in your class for 3 semesters probably knows what you want when you say X. But when they're talking to their parents don't necessarily know that. So if the rubric is coming from a request from parents, just so they better understand or can help their kids, again, I don't think you should have to go crazy or do a lot of work you wouldn't normally do. But I also think in a world where parents are suddenly feeling like they're teachers, also helping them help their kids can be a useful and important service to provide.
Paras, being concerned about our paras going to continue to pay.
For this school year, the superintendent has stated in writing and publicly at the last school board meeting that all of our employees who are full-time permanent people are going to continue getting paid for this year, absolutely. Paras and teachers no different.
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting a new app?
In terms of the app, so I know you've all seen Paula posting about the app, and while the app is one of those, like, sometimes it can drive you crazy, mostly I love it, and I think most of you do too. And so we are, the company that we were using is actually shutting down their business. I think they didn't have a business model that could sustain. So we're looking at a couple options. We're looking at building our own app. We are looking at that, then we would have the right to and be able to manage outside of what any company decides. We are looking at doing a members only section on the website. Our only issue, and that's easier to do, frankly, except the only issue is getting you all sort of independent passwords and things in a scenario where our communication isn't as good as it can be sometimes. And last, what else? We're looking at doing a Facebook group, a private Facebook group. People have asked for that. That may be a stopgap measure. We do not have that up yet. We've had one in the past and it did not get used a lot. But certainly if people who are watching us here live now, if you all think that's something, you would like, you can give us some hearts or thumbs up so I can just see your kind of general reaction on that. Because we certainly can do, a private Facebook group where we check membership. And that's the nice thing about the app, is it's a member-only platform, and I think it's also been nice to watch you all answer each other, which is a great thing. So we're going to come up with something. It's been a little more challenging in the times we're in to do it as quickly as we'd like, but we will definitely have some platform as soon as we can get one.
Is that what those little bubbles that are coming up?
See, the little bubbles are them. They're telling us they like that idea.
That's because they all have Facebook. We have
Yes, all these guys have Facebook. So.
I thought that was a screensaver.
No, that's them liking what we're saying.
Yeah.
I gotta drag Rob kicking and screaming into this millennium.
Jinkies.
Jinky.
Okay, Jinky, we need to.
Scooby-Doo.
What else we
need to
got?
clarify on, scores. Oh, does that mean that everybody was NI is now effective?
So, okay. Let me give you the clearest way I can say this, and I'm going to use a particular example, which is, just so we're clear, a very small amount of people. If you were a needs improvement, you will be able to apply to the Evaluation Review Committee. That is made up of 3 managerial staff and 3 union people. It's got myself and 2 teacher members on it. So you'll be able to apply to that group to basically ask to be considered effective. There'll be a form for you to do it. And basically you're gonna say, I was a U or an NI. If I had an assistance plan, I participated in it successfully. And your principal's gonna have to say that they would deem you effective at this point. So we know that there are some members that transferred schools and they left, they were butting heads, say, with a particular principal. But they've gotten to their new school, the principal thinks they're great and they do not need an assistance plan. That person's gonna have no problem basically being deemed effective for purposes of salary or other contract pieces. The key is gonna be the principal. Because if you apply and a principal says they still do not deem you effective, that could be an issue. But if you meet those criteria and the principal supports you, you will absolutely be able to basically be considered effective for purposes of our contract, salary movement, and the like. So,
And
that
there's not
is-
much more with the like right now because of the best and the brightest going away. So most of it
Absolutely.
is for the movement on our scale for being effective and highly effective at this point.
as well as Renaissance or Spark Pay.
Very good.
Those require effectiveness too. And so that would allow any of you to have those, to get those pay if you're in an achievement school or a Renaissance school.
I did see the question that came up is who's in charge of the governor or the president?
Stop.
Sorry,
Should
I like
we-
the question.
Should we?
We can't answer that.
Huh?
Should we write to the governor and give him our views on schools opening up?
You are certainly, as in any circumstance, we always encourage people making their views known to the governor. I would, again, just make sure that in all your correspondence that you're professional and you're supporting our teachers and members during this time. People are going above and beyond to make sure this scenario works. It certainly, is it perfect? It is not perfect, but frankly, especially those of you who taught challenging students or taught in challenging schools, being there face-to-face every day isn't always perfect either. So school district is reporting 99% of kids have checked in and are participating in some way, which is awesome, and a testament to, again, how much you all are doing to keep them engaged in a little bit harder format. So just always keep your correspondence professional, but beyond that, yeah, you're free to write to the governor.
You could email the governor and just let him know that we're appreciative of the opportunity to do e-learning. We recognize it's not as Stephanie said, it's not the perfect way to teach, but it's, us doing the e-learning and kind of continuing and helping the students at home throughout this unprecedented emergency is way better than not doing it and not getting paid and not being able to teach.
So we're getting a lot of repeat questions, so I would
Okay.
recommend that folks go back and rewatch this. We're also getting a lot of comments that the audio is breaking up.
We did see it, it
So
looked like it was,
there's a lot of
yeah, a
people
little
coming in
lag.
yet, so maybe we need to wrap
Okay.
and tell folks to go back and watch for their own. And I saw a couple of really specific questions that people probably need to reach out to their reps as
Oh.
well.
Okay, so we're gonna, Paul is letting us know we've got, we may have a little bit of internet
Lag?
lag or traffic. Many of you are asking questions we answered at the beginning of the video, so the video will be posted on Facebook. I think Facebook takes a few minutes to, finish the live and process it, but then it'll be a video that's available on Facebook, so please go back and watch that so we're not repeating ourselves. And one other thing I want to, as a reminder, we are in 3 for free time frame. Well, it's no longer 3, it's more like
2.5.
2.5, 6 weeks. If a member who hasn't been a member in the past joins us now, we waive dues for the rest of the year until next school year, and so there is a membership card available at hillsboroughcta.org. And you can email it to us. It should be, you can print it and send it in the mail. You can email it. You can take a picture and send it to us. We're being a little bit more flexible about how we are accepting of those now. But for all of you who are in contact with your circles of friends and circles of colleagues, please make sure you're talking to people. As you know, and as we always say, our union is only as strong as our members. And unfortunately, while I am 100% happy all our members are at home and safe and have mostly been able to work remotely, and I am very appreciative of all our staff who are working remotely, all our staff who are normally in schools and at processing and having those chance to have conversations with potential members. We are really hampered in doing that in the current circumstance. So please do talk with your colleagues and talk to other friends at other sites, friends at your school, and please get them to fill out their CTA membership as we go into bargaining in what could potentially be some challenging times depending on how much they change the budget. I would love to go in with more members than not. That always puts us in a better place, and so definitely make sure you're having those conversations.
Yeah, to dovetail off what Stephanie is saying, hey, if you're out there and if you're appreciating our Facebook Live, if you're appreciating the newsletters that we're getting you, we're trying other ways to communicate with all of our members so that way you're getting the information that you need and want. Please communicate that to our potential members out there, those that you're having your virtual meetings with, and tell them how you're appreciating getting that information from us sometimes before you're getting it from the district. So we were hoping that you're getting that message. If you're actually watching this right now and you're not a member and you're a potential member, please join us because there is strength in numbers and we need you. So thank you all for joining us today. For our members, look for a newsletter later this week with some more important information. Thank you for everything that you're doing out there. Continue to be safe and continue to do a great job. And we'll see you next week here with our Facebook Live. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.